Hi everyone, welcome to All Four Queens. So I'm sitting, but the boiler's behind me. I've got the sign up, so hopefully everyone will understand where I'm coming from. And I'm sitting down because it's going to be a bit of a long one. And I want to just talk around. I mean, I know obviously we're in a new 9 Let Go release and everything, and there are some things that obviously I was guided when to do stuff and when not to do stuff. And obviously, just to conclude where we are with this, I want to share with you the letter that the complaints letter that I sent to the police, and obviously the complaints response. Now, that might be quite long, and bear in mind, I don't have my reading glasses on because I've got to read off it. But the reason why I'm doing it, my spirit wouldn't rest last night, and one of the reasons why obviously your spirit is your intuition, but also your guides. And one of the reasons why I'm sharing it now is because obviously there's a lot of stuff that you've seen on the channel that's happened. A lot of people have lied and said the abuse and the money, and that wasn't true. Now, obviously, that's their judgment with God, isn't it, and the spiritual realm, because everybody knows what happens, and it's all in your Akashic records, and testimony is everything, isn't it? You know what I mean? So I know what I experienced, and I'm sure a lot of people out there know what they experienced. So why am I sharing this now? I think, and I haven't decided what I'm going to call it, whether I'm going to call it trials and tribulations or spirituality versus, physical, or whatever I'm going to call it. But I just want you to see the reality of when you step into spirituality, the power of faith through adversity, those that you believe that should protect you, obviously, you realise you do things, what I did, you do things as you would normally do, thinking that's the right thing to do, and then you realise you hit his brick wall and you realise, actually, who are you going to call in the words of Ghostbusters? And, God is the one that is going to work with you and your spiritual and your ancestors and your angels and stuff, because it's a spiritual war. So it's as above, so below. And why do I say that? So it's like, touch not my anointed, do my prophets no harm. If you look at Psalms 91, then, obviously you are covered. He is my refuge. But also, if you, obviously in my book, when I might do chapter 1 on it, I talk about being lifted out of a situation. So obviously that then tells you that you're not fighting the vessel, you're not fighting flesh, you're fighting obviously principalities and people like that. And why do I say that? Obviously on a spiritual journey, and there's a phenomenon, isn't there? A lot of people have woken up. I'm going to do a piece about COVID 2019. A lot of people have woken up, and there's a battle between light and dark that isn't necessarily our battle. That's way above us. But obviously as we wake up, those on the physical don't want that, don't want us to wake other people up, I guess. And also, they feed off us, don't they? Let's face it, the more light you carry, the more dark they carry, they want to feed. So, and that's how it's been. Now, there's a lot more to it, which obviously I'm not going to go into, people taking babies and, hiding them and putting them in cults and people having babies and all that sort of stuff. I mean, obviously there's a lot more to it than that. But what I want to focus on today, purely from a humanitarian point of view, the bullying and the abuse campaign isn't just about spirituality. For me, it's about what really goes on and what do you do when, you go to the people that you think should help you. Now, I'm going to put a disclaimer in there before I go any further, as I've always done. It's not everybody in the authorities that this is addressed to. It's the few that obviously are attached to whatever they're attached to. Excuse me. And they obviously take an oath. But obviously, I always say that they have a boss as well. And at some point, if you keep onto your faith and you keep strong in your truth, and you will always be protected and you're cloaked as well. Now, obviously, yes, they have come to the caravan park as well, and yes, they are probably throwing stuff at the caravan because they've got this self-fulfilling prophecy. But I also think as well, because I did check with the cards, and I have got some cards out, but I'm not going to do it on here. I'll do it on another one because it's going to be quite a long one. So I grab a cup of tea or coffee, whatever your flavour is. I did check with the cards, and a lot of what's going on at the minute is obviously their own projection. And I've said this before, you know, it's like a universal tennis going on, because a lot of people are now having to have back the energy that they put out. And if you don't know how to transmute energy, then, you know, if you're willing enough to sacrifice and get energy to do things that are nefarious, but you don't know how to transmute it, well, then you've got a bit of a problem, haven't you? So excuse me if I burp, it's probably spiritual burps as well, and I do apologise, but excuse me. So yeah, so that's one of the things that I want to talk about. Now, I'm sorry if you hear the boiler behind me, but obviously I need to sit down because I can't stand up in that bathroom and do this one, because this is quite a big one. So where am I going? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to read to you my police complaint, which started on the 27th of March in 2024. Now, I was going to turn the camera off, but I'm not going to do that. I mean, obviously you can watch me read if you want to, but I would suggest that you just listen, because why do I say that? It's really important. And bear in mind, I have got a law degree as well, and you know, I've got an office background as well. But it's really important when these things happen that you protect yourself on the 3D, but also understand that the battle is obviously 5D before it becomes 3D. And there's always that thing that says, you know, weapons may prosper, but weapons may be formed, but they won't prosper. So always remember that, because I think what the enemy tries to do, and I don't really like the word enemy, I don't, because I didn't know that I had any. Family, friends, colleagues, strangers, whoever, exes. I didn't know I had any, but obviously you learn on this journey that you do, and you know, it is what it is, isn't it? And obviously it's who they know and what they do, and the networks and everything else, and the abuse of power. So let me read this to you. Police complaint, 27th of March 2024. Dear Sir, Madam, after a long period of healing, I am writing this complaint to the Professional Standards Department regarding the services and treatment I received from the Staffordshire Police Authority. I am a 51-year-old woman. I hold a senior management position in a global law firm. I consider myself to be intelligent and highly intuitive person. In my free time, I volunteered with Samaritans, a humbling experience being able to support others emotionally. It has allowed me to witness firsthand the challenges people face daily, especially in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. I am also an author, life coach, mentor and guide. During the period of 2021 and 2024, I have raised various police reports. The latest crime was reported on Saturday, the 13th of January 2024. I was a target of a directed energy weapon, DEW. The exposure caused me to feel unwell over a short period of time. I started experiencing nausea, vomiting and blurred eyes. I was fine before. I understand the weapon is linked to the military. I expected the police investigation to explain why I became a target, what the criteria is, who authorises it, and I was standing in my kitchen and heard a swishing sound like a high-pitched radio frequency alongside the intermittent strobes of lights coming from behind the house at the back of mine. I raised the report in the afternoon. On the same evening, 2 police officers arrived unannounced. I am unsure why they attended my home. They never mentioned my well-being and the symptoms I was experiencing physically. I feel they were uninterested in the crime I had reported. It was a tick box exercise to have on the system, except there was a high focus on my mental health status, which I found odd, but seems to be a police pattern. On Sunday, the 14th of January 2024 at 18:35 p.m, another police officer arrived, again unannounced, banging on my door, stating he had a psychiatric nurse with him. I felt this was extreme, especially when the officer made no reference to the reported crime of my well-being. He was only focused on my mental health. I feel the officer behaved inappropriately, lacked discretion and had no concern for data protection. He was standing in my street talking very loudly on the telephone, making assumptions about my mental health status for all to hear. My mental health being the main topic. I do not feel the police officer acted with self-control or tolerance towards me. I felt ambushed in the way the police abused the power of authority to make a judgment by coming to my home. I did not feel I was treated with any dignity, respect or courtesy. That said, I took the behaviour as confirmation that my experience and truth was validated. The response made me attend the main hospital the following day to obtain blood tests to ensure my physical well-being was okay because of the symptoms I was feeling and the exposure of the DEW weapon. I researched the weapon and I am aware that this can cause internal damage, including DNA. A question when we entered the realm of doorstep diagnosis, in particular mental health, over the policing the actual crimes reported. Now, this happens in the UK, so, I don't know what it is all over, but I understand the duty of care principle, especially if people, if the person is a risk, even more so if they are already known in the system, it's to protect them. However, as far as I am aware, I am not in the system diagnosed as suffering from mental health illness. Neither am I a risk to myself or others. If this was the case, I am sure my employer would want to know. If my name is in the system prior to the incident of 2024, it is fraudulently there without my knowledge, which would raise questions to how my medical file has been tampered with. I would expect to know how this would happen, who put my name there, who authorised it, when and why. In my case, I feel strongly the police overreacted. I feel they cannot say they were operating in line with Section 136 of the Mental Health Act, this is in the UK, to use their power in an emergency. I was not in a public place, I was at home sleeping. My understanding of this act gives the police powers to remove a person in a public place to safety for a mental assessment. If they believe a person has mental health disorder and needs immediate help, I needed police support to investigate the crimes, not a diagnosis. I strongly feel the reason to have a rushed diagnosis was to devalue and discredit my experience and truth. The question is why? I feel mental health is used as a double-edged sword and a weapon depending on the desired outcome, which is a form of abuse, power and bullying. To give context, I raised various crime reports due to being subjected to a bullying and abuse by proxy organised campaign, from identity theft, fraud, no postal mail for long periods of time, gang stalking, harassment calls, computer, mobile hacking, private and personal contacts stolen. I've had to change my number numerous times. My creativity, art, photographs and book content also stolen. Damage to my property and car. To avoid further damage, I sold my car. Fake social media accounts appeared impersonating as me using my photograph. I feel the purpose and the intent was to project a negative image of me, to portray me as provocative, the opposite of who I am. The photograph was I'd gone to a charity do for Help the Heroes. I was dressed in army gear. I feel the intention is to ruin my reputation, assassinate my character and isolate me, to make others believe the smear campaign is true to ostracise me. I understand the lies have been so wild and extreme, from being a prostitute, addict, mental health, to being a dark witch. No judgment towards those who are. I am not. I am sure there is more slander. This is defamation, which is why I expected the police to investigate to put a stop to it. It's not good for me or my business credibility. I identify as spiritual and stand in the light of God. I feel when the content of my books was stolen by hacking, it was twisted as darkness and not of light. The photograph was taken at a Help the Hero charity event. I am dressed in an army fancy dress. I guess perception is reality. If enough people are bribed to validate the illusion as true, especially if AI and Photoshop was used to doctor the photographs, and no one took the time to investigate or validate the authenticity with me directly. I know it sounds extreme, and I am sure you can agree, this has been my life. What I have endured without any support has been challenging, to say the least, apart from God, of course. Whilst in a law firm, we see all types of attempts to fraud, fake photos and documents. I had to pay a lawyer to instruct to take down order of the YouTube channel, the fake one. I believe the police have the power and authority to track IP addresses and make the same orders, which was my expectation. Intuitively, I feel my identity has been used in criminal activities, including the YouTube channel. I did not create it or have the password to delete it. The lawyer responded, stating the channel was not there, yet I confirm it is. I feel it is being monitored alongside being subjected to an illegal investigation by whoever has instigated this attack. I feel violated by the surveillance against my human right my human and privacy rights and potential voyeurism. Article 8, human rights, protects your rights to respect of private life, your family life, your home and your correspondence, letters, telephone calls, emails, the list goes on. This is aligned to not receiving postal mail, hacking my emails and social media, and the additional crime I reported regarding someone entering my home while I was at work and once while I was sleeping. And if you look at some of the recordings, I talk about someone taking blood as well. The curtains and blinds had been opened and a bottle of water had been placed in the radiator. I am sure you will agree with me, identity fraud and trespassing in my home is an extremely serious crime, especially when I live alone. This is why I did not understand the police response, including the motive to pursue a mental health label. I feel based on what I have experienced, there are potentially more articles that have been breached against my human rights. Recently, I became aware of a universal credit fraud linked to my mobile. I have reported it to the National Benefits Fraud Team. Whilst my postal mail has been slow, I received a letter from New Day. Having spoken to them, it relates to a credit agency and an AO finance credit agreement that dates back to 2019. I had no idea, even with all the credit checks I have been doing. The account is linked to my home address but not my mobile or email. The last digit of the registered number is 8696 and the email is mail.com. I also received an authentication code to my mobile from For Action Fraud account, where all the historical crime reports are registered. I was suspicious and requested a new account be raised and reports transferred over to protect them. I will be raising 2 new For Action Fraud reports on the above to ensure everything is documented. Now, before I go on, obviously it appears that there is a little bit of corruption here as well, allegedly. I do not feel the police have taken the reported crimes against me seriously to protect and investigate the actual reason behind the attacks and whether it is an organised criminal network. Due to the relentless and excessive attacks against me, I feel whoever it is has access to excessive resources and limited finances, hence bribes others to validate lies. Again, I expected the police to investigate this. No one can tell anyone how they feel. I have experienced so many strange things in and around my home. All the lights were taken out in the garden. Someone had been putting dirt on my patio alongside burning red candles. Very strange. Hence raising police reports to feel protected. I feel had the police investigated the earlier crimes, the latter crimes DW would not have happened. All this alongside a vile smear campaign fueled by ugly lies to insinuate the opposite of who I am, including mental health claims. I suspect this is where it all came from. However, it's very concerning if the police authority has been influenced and acted on lies opposed to fact. I guess if enough people are bribed to raise reports to validate lies, it must be true, right? I believe this is wrong. Nothing is ever hidden. There's always a trail, paper, digital and spiritual. I also feel one should know what has been said to give a right to reply with fact. I feel I had been prejudged. What happened to innocent until proven guilty? My question, why have I received such negative abuse, treatment and selective judgmental policing? I'm not a police expert. I do work in legal and even I can see the pattern of crimes against me, which is why I feel this is an organised network to bully and abuse one person by proxy with the intent to cause harm. Abuse is not just physical, it is emotional, spiritual, sexual, psychological and financial. The intention to disempower the target using mind control, gaslight and manipulate to create uncertainty and instability. I've had to slow down working, which is financial, to gather my thoughts surrounding this madness and protect my client's identity in line with GDPR. Again, another reason why I expected the police to investigate. I am sure other people have been exposed to this type of behaviour which has caused actual injury and harm. It needs to stop and the police need to focus on actual policing to enforce change opposed to running with a medical diagnosis focus. Based on what I've experienced and my knowledge in the legal industry, I feel the excessive tactics used was linked to the MK Ultra programme. Am I an experiment? I understand, or am I an illegal experiment, and are other people in the collective selected as illegal experiments? And if so, who selects the target and why? And that's what I want to know. I understand the use of programs like these are unorthodox. not legal, alongside the use of a directed energy weapon? Or is it? If yes, why hide the use of the programme and weapon? Who determines a target and who authorises it, and on what grounds? Throughout the ordeal, I have had to rely on faith, believing the authorities will investigate because the truth will always come to light and prevail in the end. Who was involved and why I was a target, and the whole mental health agenda? What I do know, only lies need to be remembered. I doubt those who actively participated to cause me harm really understood what they were signing into, with criminal and legal implications to incite hate with the intent to bully and abuse. Being hidden confirms they know it's unacceptable behaviour. Despite the challenges, I chose to focus on faith, healing, creative expression and resilience. I refuse to be bullied to let dark overshadow or dim my light, experience and truth. I am grateful by the grace of God I am here to share my testimony. I believe I have a duty of care to speak my truth, raise awareness and protect others and myself and others in the wider community. I sense the purpose to misuse mental health was to shut me up and devalue and discredit my experience. The question is why and who is offended by my truth. I feel the police were fully aware I was a target of a DW weapon attack. I feel this evidence based on the police officers' erratic response to visit my home with a psychiatric nurse. I did not receive the response to all the other crimes I reported either. Why I'm sure you will agree the police behaviour has been very strange. The obsession to actively support a mental health diagnosis in judgment opposed to investigating all the crimes against me dating back to 2021. I question, when did we step into the realm of selective policing, police using their power of authority to decide on the crimes they react and respond to, who authorises it and on what basis? This includes using mental health as a weapon to secure a desired outcome. I question what the police mental health motive is and why did they facilitate the priority to seek a rush diagnosis, in particular on my doorstep, when there is no legislation that supports it, especially when there are so many people who have asked to be assessed and are waiting in the system. I feel this is an abuse of power, and one could question underlying corruption. Is money involved? I am not suggesting all the officers fall into this category. I hope my case is an isolated incident of a few who did not use their better judgment. Either way, I expect a full investigation, including the police officer's behaviour visiting my home with a psychiatric nurse, lacking awareness, talking loudly, making judgmental assumptions about my mental health on his mobile phone in my street. What happened to data protection, now GDPR? I question, does this not apply to the police? From my experience, I do not feel there was any compassion, courtesy or respect from the officer involved or dignity. I was faced with no police support, just judgment. I feel the police abused their position of authority and failed in their duty to provide the police standard and level of service I would expect to ensure my safety and protection and that of the wider community, especially when a DEW was used. I love my home, yet based on my experience, I do not have much confidence in the police protection. I'm left feeling something must physically happen to me before police action. I don't wish to say it, but I feel the means something fatal, which probably explains all the abuse and bullying I have endured and the mental health obsession. Even I can intuitively see the pattern. I question what happened to the police intervention and prevention. Now I'm going to just pause there because obviously, as we've seen on the tarot community, as things have gone on, the purpose is to get the target, isolate them, remove everything from them. People have obviously been paid because there's obviously money involved, and then obviously what they go with for the kill, i.e. now a directed energy weapon, but we also know spell work is used as well, because obviously you can't see, no face, no whatever, but we know that's used. And what they try and do is they'll isolate the victim and then they'll go in for the kill. But what they didn't realise with me is I might be on my own, but I'm not alone. I've got spiritual realm around me, and they're not standing for it. So I expect the professional standard to investigate the complaint in line with all the crimes I have reported over the past 4 years. This includes the action fraud and the Staffordshire police reports. See references below. I believe they are all related and linked. I feel it is imperative to have full clarity and understanding why the police failed in their duty to provide me with police support and protection to the standard of service one would expect, and why the police were so preoccupied and obsessively focused on my mental health to assist in a diagnosis, which I feel is dangerous territory, especially with mental health being a protective characteristic and not one to be abused, dominated or misdiagnosed to control to achieve a police objective or somebody else's objective, whoever it is. Obviously somebody wanted it so that they could say something. Now I believe it's been used in the past against me. No one's ever came and assessed me when I was my teenagers, when I was a child, nothing. And I believe it's been used, hence why I know the police said it was my mother that was making the calls. So, you know, maybe there's something there. Or is it the police driving the agenda, or someone else who authorises it, criminal network, higher authority, or something more sinister? If the MK Ultra tactics have been used against me, which I believe they have, mind control, I believe I've been in some sort of programme, as most of those who are of, you know, the light have been and chosen, which I feel it has alongside the directed energy weapon with the intent to cause me physical, emotional and psychological harm, hence the obsession with the mental health. I expect the Professional Standards Department to investigate whether the police officers and the police authority were aware. If yes, who authorised it and why? I feel there is a lot more to it. I'm just not sure what it is and why the police failed to use their position of authority to facilitate trying to influence a mental health diagnosis, why I became a target, and what is the underlying objective and overall motive. I think we all know it's money. I sense there is an element of fear, but what do they fear? I am one person who speaks the truth. Do we not live in a democracy where freedom of expression under Article 10 of the Human Rights Act, which protects one's rights, that's fundamental to our democracy, to hold one's own opinion and ideas and to share them with others without government interference, which includes the right to express one's views aloud, for example, through public protest, demonstrations, published articles, books, leaflets, television or radio, broadcast, work of art, the internet and social media. I feel this is available, but again selectively used depending on the motive and the agenda why. Now I'm going to just interject again there. Now look at where we're at. Obviously all this happened a long time ago, and obviously my spirit was saying that I needed to share it now. Not at the time, but now, because obviously there's recordings now that show what's gone on. But also, remember, someone is trying to hold on to my recording, to my channel, and use it to their own benefit. So that suggests there is something more to it. Now, I also said on my previous one that that's fine, because obviously that's what God obviously wants my message to be out in that environment, because obviously presumably whoever's controlling my channel is the person that's created all this, so obviously they want that to be out there so that other people can see what has really gone on, if that makes sense, because God works in mysterious ways. Remember, nothing that he does has no meaning. And so for me, you know, if they want to control my channel and whatever, then feel free, because this is already out there anyway. You know, you're not controlling anything. All you're controlling is what you think you're controlling. The rest of it is out there anyway, and the fight is between the light and the dark, you know. So, and the previous channel, the fake channel, because I was working in law, was already being watched anyway. So, you know, I don't know what you feel like you can join, but I do feel that whoever it is has a position of power, or had a position of power. Anyway, let's get back onto it. I do not feel it is unreasonable to expect the police to provide support, protection and investigate all the crimes whilst giving feedback, especially with the amount of reports I raised. I hope they would support me to unveil the truth and put justice on my name. Based on my experience with the police regarding mental health, it does highlight the need for improvement and training to remove the selective policing, judgment and assumptions, to be replaced with more empathy, compassion and objectivity. Now I'm speaking loudly because it keeps kicking in, but they're controlling that as well. My heart goes out to those who do have mental health illness. I am left questioning whether those who are diagnosed with mental health automatically receive a downgraded service from the police based on judgment, opposed to those who do not have the illness. Again, I feel this is dangerous territory as it leans towards discrimination, which is very serious. Whilst I do not have mental health, I do feel the police dismissive and ignore crimes unless they feel it is deemed worthy of a response. Again, who decides this? Now I'm going to add to that now, we know a little bit more. Who decides this, but also what society are they in? I'm going to add that, because I'm not saying that every police officer is on the bad side, I'm not, but what I am saying is there are the few that are obviously involved in something and they take an oath, and that oath is above and beyond what they're actually paid by taxpayers to actually do. Because for me, if I pay my tax, I expect you to do your job and you work for me, not go and do whatever you want to do on the dark side and then ignore what you're supposed to be doing. Hence why the world needs to change and the right people need to be in the right places. Hence the bullying. And I'll go on to that in a minute, because I did say it's going to be a bit longer, but grab your cup of tea and we'll carry on. I believe every person, irrespective of their health status, has a right to expect the same level of service and police support against all reported crimes to be taken seriously. Maybe if the police focus more on policing crimes opposed to using police resources and time to assist medical diagnoses with judgment, unless this is the actual police policy, which I do not believe it is. So then there was police reports. 2021, I did some reports, and the action fraud reports 2301056455519, and then the police ones, the Staffordshire police ones, was ROC 16183232121, IRO1, and then ROC 16946232121, IRO1, 212300 and then a DP 45082232121, IRO, and a TV1 592242121. See, now the reason why I'm saying it is because someone did try and get into the systems, didn't they, to try and delete them. Now I'm saying delete them, I don't know, but I did get I got an authentication code on my phone, and I hadn't requested it to get into the actual place where the reports were. So I'm recording it on here so that people know they did exist if they've been removed and deleted. Anyway, we're nearly towards the end now. Through this adversity, I still hold love and light and hope that there will be that this will be investigated in detail to ensure no one else would ever endure the challenges I have faced. I also hope it highlights outdated practices in the police and a need to provide updated training to address the failures. I thank you for your time, and I look forward to receiving your investigation and detailed outcome to my complaint. Okay, so the reason why I've done that, and I did actually write to some of the MPs as well, and there was a bit of an interesting response there as well. I did it because I think it's important that it was documented, but also for all those people out there who this has happened to, and unfortunately fatalities have probably taken place, which obviously we know why they do it, because obviously they want your money and and they want to clone you and all that sort of stuff. So I've done it, and the reason for the bullying and abuse campaign, for me, it's not just about the person that's bullied, it's about the people that bully as well. I want a world where everyone operates in kindness. Now I know we're not going to get that with everyone, but for those that bully, there's obviously something within them that they've gone through that they need to heal, and rather than project it on other people and go down the rabbit hole of hurting other people, maybe we can help them focus on what they need to look at as well, so that they don't then repeat the same patterns, because it's a karmic cycle, isn't it? That's what we're trying to break, is the karmic cycle of continuously doing something that obviously is what you've always done, and it's a generational curse. So for me, the reason why I put that on there, I'm going to probably do the response on a separate one, because I think some people will find the response quite funny, and I think we're on 34 now. So yeah, so I just wanted to put it out there because obviously, you know, I'm not the only one that's gone through this. I know a lot of people have, and I know a lot of people have suffered a lot, you know, from the behaviours that these people demonstrate. And obviously, they are people in positions of authority because they can sign things off. I mean, someone's got to pay for a directed energy weapon, and someone's paying for spell work, aren't they? And I'm not saying that that doesn't just sit with the odd few. The other thing that I wanted to sort of say as well, what I did notice was where I live, and you've got to be, you know, discernment and intuition. I noticed there was a lot of big American type trucks that have sort of appeared. Not really sure that it's actually a big thing here, but I did notice there's a few. I also noticed there was a lot of battered, I would say battered type transit vans circling, because I live in like a little crescent, circling the crescent, but they looked like Hispanic people in the in the vehicle driving. No, I'm not aware of that, and I'm not sure there is anybody on the street. You know, you just see things that that catch your eye because it's not the norm. So yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there as well. But that's where we're at. I'm hoping that I'll do the because my spirit kept going on last night, and it was a bit too early. It was a bit too late in the day. I think I got up at about 2 o'clock. It was a bit too much to sort of get up and do it then, but I was determined to get it done today, and I'll post it as well. But I just want people to know, and I suppose my biggest thing is, you know, walk in faith, not in fear. If you've got God on your side, then who else do you need, really? And for me, you know, when I went through all this, you know, my family just completely disappeared. So I think that pretty much says a lot. And I know the reasons. I've given everybody opportunity to be honest and open, but they chose not to. Strangers have done more than the people that are closest to you, so I am very grateful for those. And obviously intuition, your guides download as well, so I know the story. I'm just waiting for people to actually be honest about it, but unfortunately sometimes you never get justice. Sorry, I'm going to move that over me. You never get justice in the physical. You have to sometimes rely on the spiritual, because no one runs away from karma. And it doesn't matter whether you move to another country, it'll find you because it's your energy. So, you know, hopefully people will learn the lesson that, you know, God does exist. So I haven't really decided what I'm going to call it. I mean, I could probably put something like "Who you going to call?" a bit like Ghostbusters, really. But who knows? I feel like the caravan's a little bit of a setup as well. Honestly, if I explained a lot, I mean, one of the readers, and I think, you know, she's lovely. She actually says in one of her readings, she said they've tried to make you go mentor, and what they're doing is because if you was to explain it to somebody, people would think what's she going on about, and that's how they've created it, because that's what the MK Ultra is all about, isn't it? It makes you do things because they think they can control you, and then obviously you're supposed to go off your rocker, and then it fulfills their fantasy of the narrative of the mental health. Well, I didn't quite work, did I? I actually talked to him in my head because I know that there's probably a chip in me, so I just talked to him in my head. But no, it's not what God wants. You've had enough time now, and you've played your hand, and now it's down to Him, because I surrendered it. I got over the line, cycle closed, and I surrendered it. And now you take on the energy that you decided to put out and the choices that you made. And we'll see what comes from that. I mean, I do believe, and I will always say this, you know, I am so grateful to my ancestors and to my angels and to God and to the higher beings that there are out there, because where there's dark, there's got to be light. And, you know, we're not fighting the flesh, are we? We're fighting the principalities and stuff, and the energies that those people choose to conjure up and allow to take over their bodies, you know. But I am grateful, and you know, I don't hold malice in terms of the journey, because every person that decided to betray themselves and go down a different road was obviously a lesson for them to clear their karma, and they chose not to this lifetime, and so therefore they've got the same lesson again if their soul makes it into another reincarnation. Maybe not. Maybe they've gone to the lake of fire and their lineage might not survive going forward, who knows. But that's the whole point of spirituality. And I think for me, you know, people need to recognise we're not just here just to have a good time. We're here for a purpose. And one of my purposes is, one, this directed energy weapon, and targeting individuals and putting them in these experimental programs, and the spell work, and exposing who does it and why they do it. Because for me, I've always said at the beginning of this channel, I have no problem if you dance in the dark. Not at all, but just be honest about it and own it. Own it. If you like to dance in the dark and you like to do all your little witchcraft and stuff, then own it. You know, we live in a world of honesty now, and people then can make a choice whether they want to dance in your area or not. You know, but when you don't tell people, that's when you take away people's choices, and that's when you sort of take away their free will, and that's when it becomes insidious. No different from putting loads of domination spells over people that have been selected for a destiny by God, whether that be twin flame, soulmate, whoever, and you basically controlling them against their free will. And that's not acceptable, because that's not the world that we're in. And so now all this stuff is coming out, isn't it? Because people need to see it for what it actually is. You know, and even down to manipulating the authorities. You know, that's how serious it gets. So for me, it's so important from a humanitarian point of view, this is out there, because I don't want in any world, in any country, people having to suffer because people are in positions of power and they abuse it. And then they have a network that they all make sure are in certain situations and certain positions so that they can sign things off and enable bad behaviour. That's not what we're here for. And so I think, you know, it's time for change. Definitely time for change. And you know, I hope there'll be a lot of people that will agree with me. Obviously, I know there's the people that have selected this, you know, have tried to control me, but hopefully we'll overcome that. You know, God's got a reason for that, and the ancestors have got a reason for that. So that's not my concern, because obviously they know what they're doing, and I have every faith in them. You know, I'm still here. A song that kept coming as well when they kept pushing me about this. You know, it was in my spirit and I needed to do it, and they kept saying, the Bee Gees, staying alive, staying alive. So yeah, so you know, I think they you know, I love my spirit team, and I love where I am, and I'm so grateful for it. And you know, I'm not gonna say that it hasn't been a tough journey. It has, but every awakening has always had its thing, and I always know when I'm on an assignment, because new levels, new devils. And but I also know that faith is so important, and scripture for me is so important. And the other thing before I go, I know it's going on a bit, but if anyone's interested, I've been watching the Beginner's Bible, and it's like cartoon version, and it's so good, and it's really good, and there's music in it as well. And if you want to go back to a bit of childhood and a bit of, you know, a bit of giggle and stuff, because sometimes I find it quite good, and I've been listening to it this morning, and the reason being is that the other stuff, the preaching stuff, is great and you do learn, but it's sometimes quite heavy, and you know, sometimes you just want something a bit lighter. So the Bible, the Beginner's Bible, which is on YouTube, I'm not affiliated at all, have a look at it, because it's just like, it's cartoons and it's great, and it's just something fun. So yeah, so going back to this, I do have so some of the things I'm going to start putting out as well is obviously the coaching, you know, spiritual warfare coaching. I will be putting out some sort of like complaint letter support if anyone needs any support in terms of drafting complaint letters and things like that, and I'll try and get that up and running as well. I will probably do a selective readings, but I'm going to figure out how to do them because I quite like doing it in person. So obviously it would have to be via Zoom and stuff like that. I don't want to just do the cards myself. I like to actually get to see the energy in the person as well. So that would only be a selective few, but we'll figure out how we do that. And very deep dive as well. I go down, 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 down. So you have to think about what you want to know. So yeah, so I'll be putting that out as well. But obviously for me, from a humanitarian point of view, it's so important that this behaviour stops. And if it is out there, that we all stand together and put a stop to it. Because, you know, to target individuals, and I've done a bit of research, and I'm going to try and reach out to a few more, you know, the amount of people that are targeted by energy weapons, you'd be surprised. And if you just type it in, have a look and see. Now obviously we know it's not just energy weapons, we know it's, you know, spell work as well, and in my case I think it's more to do with the fact of, you know, my journey, my destiny, and that of my counterparts as well. So but either way, it doesn't not everyone's got that, but people are still being targeted and we need to put a stop to it. So anyway, I've rambled on. I'm going to love yous and leave yous. I'm going to do the next one now. I'm going to do their response and you'll have a chuckle at that. And I'll try and get them uploaded today. So love yous and leave yous, sending so much light, so much love, so much peace and harmony, and a lot of healing to anybody out there that feels they need it. And, you know, keep going as much as it's painful sometimes, and as much as your spirit sometimes goes, I'm tired, I've had enough, I don't know what I'm doing, and they're trying to change your mind. Just take a step back, breathe, hold on to yourself, and just say to yourself, no, you know, this is my life, I can do this, and I've got God by my side, and I've got my angels and my ancestors by my side. And at the moment, I don't know whether anyone else is going through it. I'm going through a bit of a kundalini. I can feel it, but I'm also got, you know, there's the energetic twist of people going through a lot of stuff, so you feel their energy as well. And then obviously there's a lot of projection as well. Now, one thing that I will say, I'm very familiar with people putting out dark energy and what it feels like when it comes at you, and that's why it's so important to protect yourself and be aware of energy as well. And we'll do a bit of session on that. I'm very grateful for the 55. I don't actually know if they're 55 genuine. I think there's some readers on there that I really like who watch me as well, but I'm very grateful for the 55 subscribers, and I want to get to about 100, and then I'll start doing some lives as well, and we'll take it from there. But I'm going to love yous and leave yous, and have a great one, and I'll see you on the next one. See you later. Bye.